from the Awesemo Odds Show, which is the second show that we have done for this format. Now, what we've got here is betting. We can say that now. Wagering, Ben, gambling. It's all legal in some states, legal in theory, and it's going to be an interesting situation when we have. Oops, I got that. So you're disappearing off the screen. It's going to be a situation where, depending on your states, you can have some goodness here. So that's what we're going to talk about. Ben, we almost had a college basketball upset. Number one, Gonzaga, playing my alma mater, University of Washington. Oh, so close. Oh, so close. Did you wager on that particular game?
No, I did not. Glad I didn't. I probably would have laid the points. With Gonzaga, yeah, you gave them a run. College basketball is up and running. College football, normally we'll be discussing bowl games on the show in the future. There's just one game tomorrow. It's just Army Navy. So more focused on the NFL, and then a ton of college basketball tomorrow. Not a lot of great games, to be honest, though.
Yeah, it's more of a thing as the bowl games start to occur. We'll get more into it. There'll be more rivalries. There'll be more injury takes. We'll have additional information coming out from the who's hurt, who's suspended, who did foolish stuff, who did not make grades, who is sitting out because they're declaring for the draft, etc. Yep. Now, these are things that actually dramatically move things. So the one guy I know for with respect to what's going on there with the I'm going to be sitting out crew is randomly a wide receiver from Fresno State is going to be one of the guys, and he's one of their key cogs. So these are the random things where you're like, wait a second, why he doesn't? I don't even know if he projects to be a first rounder, but it's one of those just oddities that we'll have to keep our eye out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always a ton of news, and we'll attack that as it goes. It's still a week away, so we got plenty of NFL between now and then to take care of. That's for sure.
Yes, let's drop a couple links here. Let's see the live Awesemo Odds Show. We're getting that to the good people of Awesemo's Slack chat. So a couple reminders here. We've got the 24 days of giveaway. That is probably the most pertinent and most intriguing option that you guys have. You have a chance to win every single day. This week, as we finish it up, the prize is NFL content for the remainder of the year. That includes through the playoffs, through the Super Bowl. We have proprietary information for ownership percentages, which is huge, especially when you put them out for the good stuff from Awesemo. He puts Alex Baker himself. He gives us his report card rankings for value and for projected points, and does that also for all of the single game slates that are the quote primetime slates. And that is a nice little deal that you have there. Plus, you'll get Slack and the other goodness. All you got to do to earn a shot at this, and this is daily, so the prize next week is going to change, but the format will remain the same. All you need to do is at the end of the YouTube show, just go to the comment section, not the chat, but the comment section. And today we want you to say, who do you think your upset special is for the NFL? Which team do you think will upset per the odds? Now, we'll let you go either way. So, for example, I think that Green Bay is going to win by double digits. The spread is 5.5. So that would be an upset because we're doubling it being a favor. Or if you want to take a true underdog to win outright against the spread, that's fine as well. Just tag that with a thumbs up and put that in the comments once the show is over. Again, you can do this for any of our shows. Each entry that you do on each show puts your name in the drawing for the free NFL content. And then on December 24th, we're doing a full year of Awesemo Premium for one lucky person. So all of the entries that you've put in will be part of the drawing for that. So if you comment appropriately on 4 or 5 of the shows per day, you're going to get 4 or 5 chances. Time you do. Ben, talk to me, buddy. It's been a week since we've chatted. How did you feel about last week's NFL? Any surprises other than Mike McCarthy?
Yeah, that was obviously not him getting fired, but them not being able to beat the Cardinals to end their season. It's the NFL is tough. These teams, obviously, my huge mistake was in DFS and betting was I was very high on the Falcons. Thought they could get it done at home. They could not, but that happens. The Giants at home winning was interesting. And then we have a good schedule, this week. I think we have a nice mix of, there's some games like the Chargers, the big favorite over the Bengals, but then there's a lot of some huge games, divisional matchups, small spreads that I like that. I like a nice mix where it's not all one type of game to break down.
Exactly. And that is the way to go here. So EMAC, they're clarifying for me. The point of an upset is to get plus money. Yes, but I'm saying this is for the chat comment. So if you want to say, I'm going to plant my flag and I think we're going to double whatever's happening, that's fine as well. We're just looking for some engagement here, Jack. Nobody likes a stickler for detail. Wait, Ben, I do like a stickler for detail.
Well, there we go.
Damn it, foiled at my own game here. All right, let's talk a few of our games now that we've got a little bit of a crowd here in chat. A couple of the ones that we wanted to focus on, and we're going to look at some of these with maybe a home team getting upset that's not expected. We're going to look at some of the close games. We're going to look at a big spread, and then we're going to look at how you may want to look at a close spread versus money line wagering versus choosing the spread or choosing the odds, because that's something that Ben can help us do a little value shopping for. Now, that may not happen in today's environment, but you'll get the idea of what to look for and how to gain a few points in your favor. Now, points meaning has a variety of meanings, not just points for the odds, but points for your wagering. So they call these basis points, or I come from a finance background, so I'll probably pick a different term than that, but your juice will vary. So if Ben and I were picking a team that was plus 2 points, we may have to bet $120 to get 100 back. But if we pick that same team outright, we may only have to bet $100 to get 100 back. So that's the difference in the vigorish or the VIG as it is commonly known. All right, Ben, first game I want to talk about, the New York Jets, your New York Jets, going into Buffalo. It's amazing. Probably half of the people watching this game will have no idea that Buffalo is actually in New York. So yay, America, yay, our education system. But I think that Buffalo is going to win by closer to a full touchdown this week. Currently, they are favored by 3.5 points. Now, let's look at some of the numbers that we have behind this. We have Buffalo checking in with the number 3 DVOA pass defense. Now, that is per Football Outsiders proprietary ranking metric, but it's an efficiency metric. So it's saying that Buffalo has one of the best pass defenses. The Jets have one of the worst passing offenses in the league, and they will have Sam Darnold under center this week in a battle of future franchise quarterbacks here with Josh Allen. Another reason I think that may be going overlooked a little bit by some people. Now, this does not necessarily portend to what will happen this week, but just 3 weeks ago, this was a 41-10 Buffalo rout in technically Jersey, the Meadowlands. But we had in that game, Barkley was the quarterback. He had 232 passing yards. On the other side, we had McCoy just ripping it up. He had 2 touchdowns, 113 yards. Marcus Murphy got into the mix with 70 yards rushing. I like that as just a bit of a precursor for what will happen now. We're a month later. The Jets still have a mediocre run defense. Again, Darnold is the wild card variable. But this is on the road in December in the Ralph. 3.5 points, Ben, feels a little bit light. What is your take on it?
Yeah, it's a weird game just in the sense that, if you quickly glance at the box score from the first one, it's like, oh, the Bills smoked them on the road. They're going to crush them here. That was with Barkley. Not that Josh Allen's clearly an improvement over that, but it was just such an atypical game. This is an ugly one. I mean, the over-under is not even at 40, so points are going to be at a premium. Getting 3.5. I think it's kind of an afterthought for most people that the Jets are just going to get smoked in this game. I don't know about that. To be honest, I still have to lean, as much as it hurts me as a Jets fan, With Buffalo, I just think, Josh Allen doing it with the legs, I think maybe they tone that down a little and they get Shady involved more here, lean on the defense. Darnold's going to have some trouble against that secondary. So if they don't turn it over on offense, I would have to side with the home team, and I would lay the 3.5 here.
All right. Now, if we look at this, because a lot of people also enjoy daily fantasy sports, from the daily fantasy sports aspect here, the one guy that did stand out a little bit to me would be McCoy, if I'm looking for a running back. Now, this week is one of the weeks where we have a very, very full slate. One thing we do want to consider is, and I'm sad I'm out here in Washington State because I can't enter these. We have a very robust, not only an early only slate, but the afternoon slate, Ben. 5 games. Normally we only get 3. I think next week we're going to start with the Saturday games, and we're down to 2 4 o'clock games. That's not very fun. But there's definitely a pretty robust afternoon slate. So we've got all sorts of chopped up action here. But in the early only, I really do like McCoy standing out as one of the plays I think could still be going a little overlooked.
Yeah, I mean, what's been happening, and it's tough to really break down, is Josh Allen scrambling for so much because he's on the run. He's taking a lot. He's finding the end zone with his legs, and that hurts Shady. He needs to get the targets back up. He had a handful last week, but it didn't amount to much. When we used to think of LaShawn McCoy, it was, obviously he's getting some work in the running game, getting work in the passing game. And I think for Buffalo, to win this game and cover the spread, they need to be a little more balanced. This, as much as I like Josh Allen, the recipe of him running for 130 yards by just running for his life is not really sustainable.
All right. My thoughts on him, I'm not so sure. Now, I do love the arm strength. There is no Kelvin Benjamin. He is now Kansas City Chief. He was outright released by Buffalo, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I'm going off memory, but I want to say he had about in the mid-20s for catches for about 300 or so yards. Nothing crazy there. But what this does is this just cements Zay Jones as a DFS play, in my opinion. He's 5,100 on FanDuel. 4,500 is the minimum for receivers, so that's a pretty good steal. He's 4,200 on DraftKings. Solid. We have to hope that the volume's there. He keeps finding the end zone. We hope that happens again. But 4,200, somewhat reasonable, particularly for cash games. And then on Yahoo, he's only 11. So 10 is the minimum there, and that is when you get somebody that's 11 that's going to be the primary receiver, that is definitely a nice play. Now, the wind's going to be whistling. It is Ralph Wilson Stadium in December, which is not the most exciting places to play if you are a pass catcher, especially when you have a wild-armed Nuke LaLoosh rookie quarterback. But hey, if you're the guy now for a team in a league that is heavy with pass opportunities, I do like that for that price. DFS.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, and like I said, with buys being gone, we have a huge slate, 13 games. The Jets and the Bills, not exactly the most glamorous from a DFS side or really even on a betting side.
Yes, glamour and Jets. I believe that left a long time
Sadly.
ago. A long time ago. That would be the Joe excuse me, the Joe Namath days. I mean, let's run down the litany. Richard Todd, Vinny Testaverde. Any of these names excite you? The ghost of Tim Tebow.
Yeah, it's been a rough stretch, but we'll see with Darnold. And that's the thing, he's on the road here, hasn't been playing, could be some rust, and if they get some heat on him, it's going to be a long day for the Jets offense.
All right, let's move along to another one here. Now, this is taking the other end of the extreme. We have Cincinnati heading into Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Now, the Chargers are favored by 14 at this point. One of the largest spreads on the week, and I actually like the Chargers. This is where we say lay the points. You give the points to somebody. That's the appropriate terminology. I'm not a wise guy, Ben.
Yep.
I'm more of a square, shall we say? Speaking of squares, the square games in the Super Bowl was my first initiation to sports wagering, if you will, when I was in 6th grade. I believe it was. It would be the Washington Redskins beating the Killer Bees, the Miami Dolphins. Long time ago. You were just a twinkle in somebody's eye.
Yeah, no, I wasn't around back then. But yeah, this is another game that, this is a tough one. Cincinnati's decimated, no AJ Green. Obviously Dalton is gone, and now they go to the West Coast, to the Red Hot Chargers, coming off an emotional big win in Pittsburgh. 14 is a lot of points, though. It's a game that I totally see it. You can lean with, I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to play, but I still think they lean on that run game, whether it's Jackson and Eckler. They have the defensive line to get pressure on someone like Driscoll. It's just going to be a matter of how many points can Cincinnati put up. Their defense, not that it's been absolutely horrendous, but they can keep it in check. 14 is a boatload. You're looking for just to maintain contact. And even if it's not, the back door and something like that is apparent. Over-under is only 47.5. So, I'm going to actually go against the grain with you here. I will take my 2 touchdowns with the Bengals. I think they can do enough with Mixon, with Boyd, not to win this game. I'm not saying that. If you're playing teasers and stuff, I totally get using the Chargers. I just don't think they're going to cover this big a number.
And this is good because what we were looking for is somewhere we have a little bit of a disagreement. We can have a little bit of a back and forth. Because once you start counting in the point spread here, which is what you need to do when you are doing sports wagering, it's supposed to make it relatively balanced. So it's to entice you to go with one side or the other. It makes it a question. Now, the reason, my little one caveat in my notes here is I think that the Chargers cover and they should be very safe outside of any backdoor garbage rallies, which is those points count just the same. So if we get 2 random fourth quarter touchdowns there for the Bengals, I'm going to be in trouble. And that is a major risk here. But here's what I do like, man. Cincinnati, number 30th DVOA against the run, 22nd against the pass. They are 31st in the league, allowing 280 yards per game, even though there's not going to be Melvin Gordon. And even though Austin Eckler was disappointing last week, we know Eckler has been fine the last season plus, particularly when getting chances. And hey, Justin Jackson looked pretty darn solid as well. When you're betting on these games, I don't have to pick which one of them has a good game. I'm hoping one of them, hell, maybe both of them have good games. And that's going to be going in my favor as a backer of the Chargers here. We have Rivers, who's 7th in the league for passing yards per game. He's 4th with 9 yards per attempt. Now, I know that's an archaic caveman metric, but every time he drops back, they get 9 yards. He is going against the team that's allowing the 31st most passing yards per game. I love the way this is lining up. Poke some holes in this.
No, I mean, it's not hard to like. The Chargers are clearly, not that they were playing bad, but they're rounding into form. They let one get away against Denver, but that was a huge win on Sunday night. So we'll see. It's just, teams like this, it's a weird spot only in the sense of coming off that big win. Now they get lowly Cincinnati at home. We saw them start slow against the Cardinals, and then they rounded into form, and they did smoke them. But laying over 10 in the NFL, just on a macro level, not that teams cover all the time like that, but man, that is a lot of points. And if Cincinnati can put up some offense, I will say they keep it within range.
All right. Just a couple other numbers to round this out. We have the Chargers that are per DVOA 8th in the league, passing from an offensive perspective, 15th rushing. And the only bonus that I could come up with for Mr. Driscoll is they are getting left tackle Cordy Glenn back. And this may be one of the weeks that it's not a road game for the Chargers in their home stadium, Ben. Who knew? They're 9-3. They've won 8 of their last 9. The only loss was a heartbreaker, 22-23 against the Broncos at home in Week 11.
They've been playing well. It's just going to be a matter of how effective will that running game be without Melvin Gordon. They have 2 viable backs. And for fantasy purposes, definitely Chargers that I'm interested in, no doubt. And I don't even, it's funny. when you're getting that many points, a lot of times it's a weird feeling because it's like I would be stunned if Cincinnati won this game. I would honestly be stunned if they're even in a position. But there's such a difference between that and just the ability to keep it close, keep contact, be down 10 perpetually, and that happens a lot where a team just kind of coasts, but they cannot get inside the number, especially when it's double digits like this.
Would it shock you if it was 31-20 in Cincinnati and 31 points were scored in the first half and
There you go.
Cincinnati had a fourth quarter random touchdown as
It happens
Chargers
all
were
the
so
time.
happy. And they still won by 11. That doesn't do it for us.
No, and that's it's just going to be a matter of how Cincinnati gets out of the gate. Does it get out of hand? Or are they playing catch up to the extreme? That would obviously be a big problem.
All right, next game here. This is Atlanta and Green Bay. Now we have all sorts of fun stuff for this one. We, of course, have Mike McCarthy no longer around. Now, I'm a little bit sad as we see people tap dance on, well, we don't want to say tap dance on his grave, but his coaching grave there that's now a little rest in peace in Lambeau Field. 13 years, he had a phenomenal record. He took him to a Super Bowl, 9 years worth of playoffs in those 13 years. But 4 of the last 5 years have been absolutely horrendous in today's day and age for what we've seen with the NFL. Aaron Rodgers is now 35. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, there is no doubt, but I don't know how much longer he can prop himself up at the tippy top of his game where he kind of is right now. Everything else is going to be a slow, gradual decline. Now, we've seen this with Tom Brady. Well, no, I guess we haven't because Tom Brady is ageless, but we saw it with Peyton Manning. We've seen it with all sorts of other guys. So while I'm sad to see a coach like McCarthy's long, outstanding track record go, if you just looked at his last 5 years, you'd say, why is he still there? So this is what's always tough. But Joe Philbin is coming in. Last time we saw him in a head coaching gig was in Miami, 2012 to 2015. He was 24-28, did not make the playoffs. But he has been calling plays, and he has been with the Green Bay organization for a long time. What is your thoughts first about Joe Philbin stepping in here to take over the reins?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. This happens in college a ton. In NFL, there's less teams, but it does happen. When a team's struggling, they hit the reset in the middle of the year. It creates a challenging question of, does Green Bay come out, even though they're out of it? Did they say, you know what, let's make this a new season? Did they get a boost from a guy like Joe Philbin? Did they get creative with the play call? Did they finish the season strong? Or are they just defeated in the extreme where they come out lifeless and they stumble to the finish line? The unique part about this is on the other side, you have the Falcons, who are in the same bucket. They've been awful lately, haven't scored 20 points in 4 straight games. They've just, the offense is anemic. Now they go, outside to Lambeau. The spread is dropping. I saw it at 5.5. It's down to 4.5 where I'm looking right now. So money, I guess, is coming in on the Falcons side. It's just a very odd situation because we don't know how Green Bay responds. Does Rodgers come out on a mission to kind of show people new page, new team, or are they just in such turmoil that this is actually a spot to sprinkle on the road team?
And that's going to be one of the biggest variables that we have. Now, of course, I love the narrative showing out well for the new coach, et cetera, et cetera. Let's set that aside for a moment. What do we have for our other metrics? You mentioned Lambeau Field. It's going to be a little bit cold. We have a dome team coming in to Lambeau Field, a dome team from the South. It's going to be 25 or cooler all game. Looks like it starts out at kickoff around 20, 21 degrees, get a little afternoon sun, gets us up to about 25, and then it's going to be cold again. Slight breeze, looks like it's going to be between 8 and 12 miles an hour. So this is not the bone-chilling cold of Lambeau Field, but this is I really don't want to be out there. It's 25 degrees, for God's sakes. And everybody's going to have to feel that way, unless, of course, you're cheesehead and then pervious to all of this. But that, I think, is going to affect Atlanta, particularly on the defense. And we know their defense is decimated. They, according to Football Outsiders, have the 31st rushing DVOA, the 29th passing DVOA. I really, really like Green Bay from the rushing perspective. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do with Aaron Rodgers from a DFS angle, but Aaron Jones checking in at 7,500 on FanDuel feels like about 10-12% underpriced. Same thing on DraftKings. He's 7,200. Yeah, he's not overly involved in the passing game, but Green Bay does have the number 2 rushing DVOA on offense. They're going against like the worst defense. I like that matchup, and he's a very favorable 27 on Yahoo. So from a DFS perspective, I really like Jones in this game. From the wagering perspective, I'm happy that that this that this spread is kind of going the other way. I think Green Bay will win by double digits. I've got them by 10.5 right now. And when I say I've got them, I've looked at a variety of things. I don't have my own proprietary model, but I've checked out a few other things here, Ben, that seem to make sense for me. And this is one of them on the edge and the extreme. And we picked some of the games here where we thought we were ahead of or under dramatically one way or the other on the spread. And this was one of mine because the bulk of these games, I'm like, yeah, that's about what I think it's going to be. It's hard to wager on coin flip games. But this one I do feel strongly for this. And I'm not a fan of Atlanta. They're New Orleans light.
Yeah, no, I wish it wasn't Atlanta going there, because this would be a spot that I would look to target, the unknown with the Packers and say, I'll take a stab on a team coming in that's maybe not even a great team, but they're playing hard, playing okay. It's just not the right spot for me for the Falcons. I couldn't stomach even getting the 4.5. The offense is not working going outside. Matt Ryan, Julio, they have a couple weapons, but I agree that the Packers offense will find ways to get their playmakers a little more in space. And not that I have no clue how Joe Philbin will be. He hasn't called plays in a long, long time, but I do expect them to put an emphasis on being a little more creative this week. So I'm also willing to lay the points at home with the Packers.
Right. Now, one last thing to remember, this isn't a slam dunk. And a lot of times, and most of you who are watching kind of have daily fantasy sports angle, we forget about win-loss records. We don't care about a lot of that stuff because we're more focused on a day-to-day, a micro view of everything and where are the players' salaries and what is the matchups, etc. Green Bay has won once since their bye week in week 7. They are 1-5 in that stretch. That is horrible. They have scored less than 20 points 3 times in 7 games. Probably in those 6 games. That is the one cause for concern. But again, for me, the matchup, cold weather team facing a dome team at home, and the dome team has a crappy defense already. That's where I end up with Green Bay. Final thoughts to wrap this one.
It's a tough spot. Like I said, we just saw this team lose at home to the Cardinals. So clearly we're not positive of what Green Bay is. But if you do look at their recent schedule, most of those games were on the road and they were against quality teams. They rolled Miami at home. And besides the Cardinals game last week, they had been, the problem with them was they could not win on the road. At Lambeau, they were just fine. So I'm willing to bet that was somewhat of an outlier last week, and they get back on track, even though ultimately this year has been a clear failure.
All right, we're going to get into our section here. We're going to talk about some potential upsets. We've got a couple that we have. Chat, if you want to drop into the YouTube chat who you think is a good game or you would like us to talk about for upsets, meaning that we will see the underdog win outright, go ahead and drop those in.
Yeah, we got one just now about the Colts on the road. They're a 4.5 point dog, Jeff, in case you're wondering. So I don't hate that. I could see it. Texans are playing well, though.
Texans have been playing well. The last time we saw these two teams meet, it was overtime, and the Colts did lose. That was all the way back in week 4. A lot has changed since then. We do know that Andrew Luck is able to throw the ball more than 25 yards downfield.
That helps.
Big improvement from where we were in the first month, etc. So tricky one here. Tricky one. I always have a horrible read when it comes to these two teams and pretty much anything involving Houston because they are so darn efficient, Ben. The passing and what Deshaun Watson has done this year in 27 passes or less for the bulk of the season has been pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, the Texans have found a groove, found a blueprint of, at times they don't even need to rely on Watson's athleticism. They're running the ball much better. The defense is good. Uh, Not a game. I think that's a tough game. Colts are coming in. They can certainly win that game. I'm not touching it. But I do like that upset call. That's a worthwhile. We want to hear what people think about the upsets this week. We both have a couple that I think they have a shot. Obviously, you're getting, if you don't take the points, that's where the money line comes into play. And if for anyone watching, if you haven't checked out our videos, me and Andrew Barron from A to B crew, we've been doing some short tutorials. They're on the YouTube page, and it breaks down some of these key terms, key concepts within betting, and money line wagering. Certainly one of those videos upcoming.
Well, let's head on Carolina at Cleveland. We have
Right.
Cleveland as 2-point underdogs at home. If you feel strongly that Cleveland is going to win, I mean, isn't it much better to take the money line than the 2 points?
Yeah, so I mean, in the NFL, there's key numbers that you want to look out for. Of course, with betting, you have 3, 7. Those are the type of numbers because the score lands on them more often than other numbers. Like right now, I'm looking and I have the Browns on my screen. It says +1.5. The chances that the game lands on 2, or 1, where it comes into play, it's very slim. So for me, I would rather forego getting the 1.5 and just take the straight money line, so I get plus money. So instead of having to lay -110, where it's 110 to win 100, I can lay 100 at +105, and then I win 105 if the Browns win the game outright.
Yes. It comes down to these little slim margins, and you've got to play them out for the course of the season. And when you hear the stories about throughout time that the people have been living and wagering in Las Vegas, with Teddy Covers is the one name that comes to mind as one of the famous guys out there. It's over the long haul. They're not winning the stuff every week, and oftentimes they're what's the magic? 57% of the time you need to win in order to get your little break even. And if you're pushing every little edge you have and you're pretty good, maybe you get that up to about 59%. Wow, that's there's a lot of room for bad things to happen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the NFL is, in my opinion, the most efficient market. So if you just randomly picked teams, you would hit about 50%. But obviously, like DFS, there's a rake, there's a vig. So you need to hit 52, 53% just to be even with the vig if you're betting spreads. But in a situation like this, I'm with you. If I bet the Browns +1.5, and I do like them this week, I would forego getting the point and say, you know what, just give me the money line. I think they beat the Panthers outright. What a collapse! It's just a team that can, in my opinion, out of nowhere, really the wheels fell off. They just look lifeless. The defense is being exposed, and now they travel to the Browns, who bad game last week against the Texans, but I expect a lot more success with Baker, with Chubb, get the weapons involved on the outside against this defense.
All right. The next one where I'm feeling there might be an actual, this would be a true upset. This is Denver at San Francisco. I'm looking at San Francisco to win this outright. Currently, they are about 4-point underdogs.
Yep.
So I have gone back and forth on this one. I'm not, and this is what happens. They set these numbers very well, Ben. You start to look at these, and I'm sitting there going, would I take them outright? I think I still would. Now, Matt Breida's out. So, but hey, guess what? How many times has he been out quite a few times? Yes, we are down to Nick Mullins. He's third string quarterback. Who knows what's going to happen with Goodwin out there. But we do have Dante Pettis healthy. We saw the former University of Washington Husky have a 2-touchdown game in Seattle last week. He actually grew up in the state of Washington, of all things. But we saw what he could do healthy. I mean, last year in college, he led the nation in punt return. He has the career record for punt return touchdowns at the Division One level. So this is an elusive guy, and if you can get him into space, good things can happen. Denver, not the most intimidating offense. They are a team that does not scare me a lot, and even going on the road, I think that sours their defensive opportunities just a little bit because they're one of the teams that does get a great home field advantage there in Mile High Stadium because of the altitude, because of the crowd, etc. But when they go on the road, oftentimes we see them with some dud games. And looking at this team, Ben, Emmanuel Sanders out, Achilles ruptured Achilles, I believe, is what happened. We've got the Denver on a 3-game winning streak, which yay, that's nice. But before that, they were 1-7 in a 7-game. Pardon me, 1-6 in a 7-game stretch leading into that. I'm going with San Francisco for this one. Just feels like a lot of things are lining up against Denver. This one's a little tougher to put your finger on it because we've got major wild cards, but who's going to be the offense for Denver right now?
No, it's a worthwhile question, and you're getting, you forego those points, you get plus 170 on that bet. So it's not like you have to win that 50-50 to turn a profit long term. I think that's an interesting call for sure. The Broncos, not only Emmanuel Sanders, but Chris Harris, their good slot corner, banged up.
Demaryius Thomas is not walking through that door.
That's right. So it's down to Cortland Sutton, the weapons on the outside, untested. Philip Lindsay's been great. There's no doubt about it. But the Niners' run defense is not bad. That's one of the strengths of that team. And we've seen, Mullins last week, he racked up a ton of yards. I know they were not really in that game. They were at Seattle. But at home, different environment. The Broncos away from Mile High. I don't know if I'd lay the money line, but the +4 is definitely the side I lean to as well. I think this is a tough spot for the Broncos. In general, I know, we both talked about they came off big win Chargers a couple weeks ago, but this is a different animal. Sneaky game in San Francisco this week.
All right. We have from the chat here, we have Jordan Frank likes the Bears as home dogs. The Bears they're interesting. So this is going to be the Sunday night game. We've got the Rams are coming in on the road. They're favored by 3. We should see Trubisky back, which is going to be helpful. We do know that the Rams' run defense is pretty much the worst in the league, Ben. It's 29th per DVOA, but I don't really think it's going to be Jordan Howard that's getting the love. I think we might see Tariq Cohen. How do you feel here about the monsters of the Midway taking on the 11-1? Let's say that one more time. 11-1 Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, this is a big game. Super excited to watch it actually, because the Rams have, they're 11-1. They've been not shaky lately, but they haven't looked as crisp. I will get that. And this is a good test for Chicago. They've had Chase Daniel in there. Trubisky should be back at home. If they want to reasonably win the North and just be in the conversation in the playoffs, this is the type of game they got to win. Having said that, I'm on the other side. I'm leaning towards the Rams. I know never love laying points on the road, but I just think with the weapons, if they can spread this defense out, Goff, McVay didn't look good last week, but if they can just be short, negate the pass rush, I think they're going to have success. And I really wonder, the over-under sits at 51.5. How many points can Chicago reasonably put up in this game? Because I don't see many ways that they hold the Rams to a somewhat conservative number. So if the Bears are able to win this game, I actually think it's with Trubisky keeping them afloat rather than the defense locking the Rams down.
And that would make a lot of sense. I mean, the game will be in the 20s. Again, this will be the Sunday night game. Bear weather. Well, not quite. Bear weather is 20 degrees or snowing. The Bears. But we do have Jared Goff, California boy through and through, high school, college, and pros. So not a lot of experience in the cold weather, but he is going to be handing off Todd Gurley, and he does have a variety of options there on offense in the passing game, plus their defense. Probably have the best defensive player in the league there. This is a tough one. I think I'm with you on this one. and
Okay.
I'm gonna go with the Rams. But weird things happen any given Sunday. Bright lights, marquee game, cold weather, plenty of variables. Trubisky back. Who knows? I mean, did you see Tariq Cohen getting 180 yards in his last game?
No, they're getting him. Yeah, obviously with Chase Daniel, getting him in space on those wheel routes, and they're gonna have to be creative. These are two creative coaches. Obviously, Nagy has done a good job with that team, and he's utilizing Trubisky. I'm interested to see if the Rams are able to move the ball effectively. Can the Bears keep up? I'm sure that's not their game plan. They want to control this game, control the clock, play good defense, be efficient on offense. I don't think they want to get in a shootout with a team like the Rams.
All right, we've got a question here from Rated R Superstar. He'd like to know if we can go over the Pats and Dolphins. So, Ben, while you pull up your notes for that one, I'm going to do a little housekeeping here and just remind everybody that we have the 24 days of giveaways. So, to enter into this, all you have to do is once the YouTube shows are over, a comment section will appear. Go in, type a comment, give us your favorite upset pick. We will then put all of you in a drawing with the commenters of all of our YouTube shows for the day, and the winner will get a Awesemo NFL package for the remainder of the season. That will include all of the projections for NFL, the premium articles, the ownership percentages, which are actually quite helpful, and a variety of other things. So that one's pretty cool. Plus, you will also be put into the final grand prize drawing, which will occur on December 24th for 1 full year of all Awesemo, full access, all sports, all content, all everything. It'll be a good time. Ben, looking at this one here, we have Tom Brady. Hey, cold weather quarterback going into Miami. Do you think he's going to want to spend more time on the sidelines, getting a little sun? Is this the reverse narrative?
Yeah, right. Miami, for some reason, the Patriots, they tend to struggle in Miami. We've seen that time and time again.
Remember the Wildcat game?
Yeah, Ronnie Brown. Miami causes them troubles, especially in Miami. In week 4 this year, that was when it seems like a lifetime ago, everyone was saying the Patriots are dead and buried, and they absolutely rolled them. But that was in Foxborough. This is a different situation. This is another game. It's different than the Chargers Bengals, but it's the same concept for me. I'll give me the 8 points with Miami. I think this is a scrappy, ugly game. They keep it close. Patriots pull it out. But I'll take the points here. I just think we've seen time and time again, especially on the road with the Patriots, not as efficient, not as effective. And they're clearly the superior team, but they got to win by more than a touchdown. That's a tall task on the road.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with pretty much everything you said. This is a win for New England. The points, though, that's what makes it a challenge. Just looking to see these guys. Yeah, these guys faced off. Last time these guys faced off was week 4 up in Foxborough. A lot has changed since then. It was a monster 38-7 win for the Patriots, which, by the way, that win in week 4 brought them to 2-2. So dramatic changes for both teams throughout the time here. But I believe Tannehill will be starting. Is that?
I believe so. Yeah, and again, it's a game. Miami, they're scrappy. They can if they can control the clock, maybe they get Gore and Drake going. I know they're banged up in the receiving core, and their weapons are not all there. And then you look on the Patriots, they've got a multitude of weapons. But this is a game, I'm looking at the over-unders 47. I actually kind of think it lends itself to even going under that. And when you have low-scoring games, obviously when you're getting points, that becomes more pertinent. 8 points in a game that only has 40 points total is a lot better than 8 points in a game that has 70 points total. So if this one stays close, stays ugly, I'll take the points with the home team.
All right, Ben, let's talk about Monday night. Chad, if there's any other games you want us to focus on, drop them in there. We'll do one more after this one. I've got one lined up if you guys don't one. But Minnesota at Seattle, depending on where you're at, it's a 3 or 3.5 line. We've got Minnesota mostly back to health here, and we have Seattle, which we know the whole dome field advantage. They're on a bit of a roll at this point, and generally the well, we say dome field advantage. It's no longer a dome, but old habits die hard. For me, being here in a lifetime Seahawk for 1977, Ben, when they came into being as a franchise. Spent 1 year in the NFC, moved to the AFC. Now they're back in the wild journey for these guys here. But they are coming into this game on a 3-game winning streak. They had a squeaker there in Week 11 on Thursday night against Green Bay. That was 27-24. They got to Carolina in Carolina. They seem to have their number. Another lucky one, 30-27, and then last weekend just absolutely manhandled the 49ers, 43-16. Russ Wilson only needed to throw for 185 yards. And here's the wild card: they have not unleashed Russell Wilson this year. He has one game where he has more than 300 yards passing. Then he's got 5 where he has less than 200, but he is still amongst the league leaders for efficiency. I say all this, but I think Minnesota's going to. Don't think the Seahawk defense is going to be able to contain everybody, particularly if Diggs is fully healthy. We have Diggs, we have Thielen, we've got Dalvin Cook. I think there are just going to be enough moving parts there, and a sharp quarterback in Cousins who doesn't take a ton of sacks and doesn't turn the ball over. So I think what we're going to see here is a solid Minnesota defense be able to keep the very efficient, the hyper-efficient, if you will, Russell Wilson in check. And they will eke out a victory. I don't think they'll win by more than a field goal, but since they're the underdog, that is winning.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Vikings, this is a huge game for both of them. If the Seahawks can get through this, they're, I don't want to say in the driver's seat, but they should be part of the playoffs, not going to catch the Rams. And I'm against you on this one. I'm on the Seahawks at home. They are just a different animal at home. They snuck through. I thought the gauntlet for them was that mini stretch with Green Bay and Carolina. Not that they looked impressive, but they won the games. That was at Carolina. Now they're on a mini homestand here. They dusted the Niners last week, and they really found something with this running game in particular. I know the Vikings defense, solid unit, but this monster with Carson, Penny, Mike Davis, Russell Wilson isn't running as much, should be a little fresher. They can get him in space. He has been more efficient, and even the weapons. You've got Lockett, you've got Baldwin. David Moore is not the worst. The key for me, and I think for you, is will Cousins turn into Kirk, where he's throwing interceptions all over the place? For the Vikings to have a chance in this game, I think they need to win the turnover battle. I don't think they will. I think the Seahawks defense can get to him. And if they do that, I'll lay the 3 at home.
All right. Here is the last game that we'll mention. Pittsburgh at Oakland. Now, initially, this was going to be the Sunday night game. This was flexed out, but it's back down to a 4 o'clock game here. Pittsburgh traveling to the West Coast. Oakland is 10-point underdogs. I think that this will be a much closer than expected game. I think, in my opinion, this is going to be a bit of a letdown for the Steelers. I think the Steelers ultimately will prevail, but I think 10 points is going to be plenty. It's going to be plenty for me to be very interested in the Raiders, even though we all have the joy in watching John Gruden's face get redder and redder.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, we saw this last week. Obviously the Kareem Hunt news was dominating everything, but at the same time, there was a giant spread for the Chiefs, and they didn't even really come close to covering. Did they win the game? Yeah, they put up 40 points, but they gave up a boatload too. Raiders, another home game where you're a double-digit dog. I lean that way too, honestly. The Steelers, I think we have a couple question marks here. I know Jalen Samuels is going to be an interesting guy for DFS, but he's not going to come in and just be James Conner. He'll get some work, but going to lean on the passing game. They'll probably be somewhat angry. They let one get away against the Chargers. But the Raiders offense, I think, does enough here to keep it, again, similar to what we're saying, or at least what I'm saying on all these big spreads, if you can just keep it in contact, you don't have to win the game. The Raiders don't have to be winning. But if it's competitive, if it's back and forth, similar to what we saw last week with the Chiefs, I wouldn't be surprised to see them stay within the 10-point margin.
Yeah, and this is what the Steelers. They're coming off. They had a 6-game winning streak. They lost their last 2. They lost by 7 in Denver, and then they lost by 3 on Sunday Night Football. Very odd ending with all of their false starts.
That was
debacle. But trying to keep the Los Angeles kicker off balance, but that did not help. So they've got Oakland, and what a travel spot feels on a short week feels a little bit like a letdown, because coming ahead, they've got New England week after next. Then they're in New Orleans. They finish up the season with Cincinnati. I mean, this is one of those. It's like this is a call to arms. They need to get their act together, and I just don't know that they can, because they're now Jalen Samuels. Come on, really? I don't see it. So let's talk about him for a second. FanDuel, he's 4,600. DraftKings, he's 3,700, 8,900 on Fantasy Draft, 14 on Yahoo. I guess DraftKings and FanDuel are the question. What do you see for a stat line from him? I mean, 70 combined yards and a 70% chance of a touchdown is about what I'm getting him for about 11 points.
It's a weird guy because, I saw him a lot in college at NC State. And he was kind of a Swiss Army knife. He was a tight end. He was a fullback. They got him in the backfield, catches the ball. It's going to be a somewhat timeshare. Him and Ridley. I doubt that Jalen Samuels gets a workhorse load, but at the same time, he's really going to get the benefits of the passing game. And on a full PPR site like DraftKings, that can add up quickly. But in terms of the spread, I think, if Oakland can, and this is a big if, they can keep these receivers in front of them and not get burned on deep shots and make the Steelers methodically move the ball up and down the field. That plays into their hands. I'm most worried about Juju or Antonio Brown getting behind. We saw Tyreek Hill. He didn't have a good game, but man, did he have opportunities last week. So that's the key. And then on offense, the Raiders just need to manufacture something, whether it's Jared Cook, work the middle, kill that clock. I'm sure they're not looking again to get up and down. Over under sits at 51.5. So nothing major there. Plenty of room to keep this somewhat close.
All right. Any other games or anything that catch your eye that we did not touch upon?
Not really. I think the most interesting game for me on the entire slate is the one we talked about in terms of Rams-Bears. Really want to see that game, just because it'll tell us a lot about both teams. And we know the Rams are good, but this would be a big win for them. And then Chicago to kind of take that next step. But, we're getting to the home stretch in football. Keep your eyes out for injuries. A lot of guys banged up at this point.
All right. Final reminder, we've got the 24 days of giveaways. If you put a comment on any of the YouTube shows, you will be in a drawing for the one-day prize. Currently, it is a rest of season NFL package from Awesemo.com. Everybody will also be entered into the December 24th drawing for all of the comments throughout the 24 days of giveaways. And the grand prize there will be a full year of Awesemo premium content. Wouldn't you want that as your present for the tree? We've got a bunch of shows coming up through the weekend. We have A to B this afternoon. That would be with Ben and Andrew Barron. We have the Deeper Dive that will be with Laffy and Adam. That will be at 5 o'clock on Friday. 6 o'clock, you'll get Live Before Lock with Fast Eddie Fear. On Saturday, you, of course, have the DFS Strategy Show around 11 o'clock, right around as we get into the lunch hour. You will get Adam Ship, My Money Share, featured on that show with yours truly. We will have the Live Before Lock Saturday show with Fast Eddie Fear, and then the highlight, the crown jewel of Saturday, is the On the Contrary show with Awesemo Alex Baker, as his parents know. I think his parents still, his mom's holding out, but his dad calls him Awesemo. Almost positive. And then that'll be Evan Silva joining them, hosted by Chris Spags. We get Evan Silva with all of the possible information that he has crammed into his head, because we get him here on Saturday afternoon. So you get the best and brightest information latest updates. And that's actually a pretty good show because they kind of challenge each other, they being Alex and Evan, and go back and forth on looking for some contrary plays, because now we know where the herd is, where the herd is strong, and we can figure out some ways to leverage against them. So those two guys give you some good insight and analysis for that. And then, of course, Sunday, hey, we've got 2 hours of shows beginning at 11 featuring Ben and Laffy, and then the final hour will be Spags and the one and only Josh Engelman. Ben, any final thoughts as we get on out of here?
No, I mean, I think it's another fun week of NFL. Like I said, home stretch. It's always weird. We got some teams that have quote unquote quit because they're out of it. Other teams fight for the playoffs. So, be aware of that, but have some fun with it. Hit us up in Slack, always around, for this. Plenty of DFS talk on the horizon. So fun time of the year.
All right. With that, gamers, you can find me at EMACDFS. You can find Ben on Twitter at JazzRazDFS. And of course, it is Awesemo_COM. With that, gamers, good luck.